We talked in the beginning about training, did we not?
We did indeed.
And how important it is. We have friends over in the public sector. We have friends in the private sector who are making sure that quality drivers are coming onto the roads and coming into the industry on a daily basis. We really pride ourselves in our relationships with both the National Association of Publicly Funded Truck Driving Schools, NAPFTDS, and of course, the CVTA. A good friend of the show who made his way down to New Orleans to the Fastport Studios when we first opened these up has shown up on the scene, Dave, and he has brought another friend of ours as well with him with some really fun and exciting news. Dave, would you care to do the honor on the introduction?
Andy Poliakoff is with us, the Executive Director of CVTA, and Jeff Burkhardt, who is the new CVTA Chairman, and he's also the Senior Director of Operations and Commercial Driver Training at Ancora Training. Andy, good morning. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning to you, but good morning to both of y'all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Andy. Let's kind of jump in here really quickly and just kind of talk about ELDT enforcement and non-domicile. And there's a lot to kind of break down in all of that. But Andy, if you would once again, I feel like I beat a dead horse when I do this. Just kind of give people a 30,000-foot overview of the CVTA. Kind of talk about what it is you guys do, and to give people a sense of your importance in the industry. And what I think is a growing importance in terms of where the industry is headed.
Indeed. Thank you so much for having us on. So CVTA, the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, the largest association of professional truck driver training schools in the U.S. We have members with about 400 locations in 46 states that train 100,000 entry-level truck drivers each year. And for almost the last 30 years, CVTA has been working on increasing opportunity, but also making sure that high-quality training takes place. And, safety and training and all those considerations have been a part of that mission for decades and decades now. And finally, coming to fruition in many ways with the entry-level driver training rule that became enforceable federal law after a long and arduous trip through policy and the FMCSA a number of years ago, but we've been having some real challenges in terms of the enforcement of that, based really in particular on, these bad actors and entities that provide substandard training, 24-hour training. And as we've all seen recently, folks that are engaging in downright fraud and are still being allowed to register onto this federal database. And I think that the way that became most apparent recently is with all these, this sort of very prominent tragic crash that occurred in mid-August and has taken hold of people's understanding of, how the challenges in terms of enforcement and how those can really play out.
And the follow-up I wanted to have here, too, about the ELD training mandate. And either one of you can speak about this, but it's a really kind of cool thing is that people often, as a counter, and I think a really bad counter, will say, well, look, if we don't figure out a way to get people on the road quicker, it's not going to make any difference. This is actually going to help create a shortage. My kind of take on this, and I'd love yours and Jeff's, Andy, is that I actually feel like the more legally expedient routes towards the CDL that we can shut down, it means the more people will then be forced who want to go into the industry to play by the rules, and that in and of itself will then, after a quick adjustment, begin to actually give us the quality of drivers at the numbers that we need. Is that a fair assessment?
Indeed. And Jeff, do you want to sort of weigh on this, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever ELDT was first, the spirit of ELDT was certainly very sound. And whenever it was implemented finally in February of 2022, it was all for the right reasons. Unfortunately, there were loopholes and there was room for bad actors to come into the realm, and they have proliferated. We are all lockstep in agreeing that the only thing worse than new CDL drivers coming into the sector, which are badly needed, are those who should not be there to begin with. So the good actors, of which everybody in CVTA and others are part of, are certainly doing it right. They always have, and they always will. Does it take a little bit more training? Perhaps in some cases. But by following all the correct rules, we are putting out the most the safest possible entry-level drivers into the sphere, and that is well worth any type of a quote-unquote delay that may be as a result of ELDT.
When they established the new medical thing, they put the registry of medical providers out there, and there was a lot of controversy about who was on it, who wasn't, and how many people we were going to be able to find. There is a training provider registry. You guys know all about that because that's your world, but I think a lot of drivers and folks in the industry may not know about the registry itself. But there are some problems there and some challenges, right, in terms of getting people out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when we talk about these bad actors, one of the challenges that has been so evident, and come to light in many ways recently, but this is something that CVTA and the publicly funded organization that we've been working together on, and frankly, the American Trucking Association as well, is trying to, draw attention to this problematic nature of the training provider registry, which is where people who are providing this training providers, they have to be listed on this registry in order to interact at all with the state driving license agencies, so that people can sit for their skills tests, et cetera. And so what's happened is that the reason why there's been such a proliferation is that there is no requirement that you necessarily submit your curriculum or that you indicate whether or not you're licensed in that state, et cetera. And so it's been a, quote, self-certification model, which is enormously problematic. And I think there's 21, these numbers that I'm about to say include municipalities that are doing training and motor carriers and other, types of classifications of organizations. But, you have over 20,000 total providers with almost 40,000 total locations. But in this realm of those that train the public, you have educational institutions and schools, et cetera, training schools. And that's where I think we're really concerned is you have these folks that are training the public that are listed on this training provider registry. And really the problem has been, when states or others are making complaints about, hey, you have people that are listed on here that aren't even properly licensed in our state to do business or to provide education, the federal government has been incredibly slow in actually removing those entities from the training provider registry.
Jeff, at its
And I think it's also a good note there, Andy. I mean, it was also brought up as far as like medical examiners and that registry. The registry is only as strong as its enforcement mechanisms. And as training providers, if the same liability and the same enforcement efforts were made to ensure that they are properly conducting their business, well, then we wouldn't have the problem of the bad actors. The medical examiners, if the bad actors in that field were to just, pencil whip medical examiner certificates after folks would do a DOT physical, if they would do one at all, well, obviously there's a huge amount of liability and extreme punishment in order to bring those folks in line. The only thing that we're asking for is basically the same type of enforcement be for both the training providers that also are on the training provider registry. It's essentially the same thing. And again, it's only as strong as the enforcement mechanisms or lack thereof that the registry is going to be a place of sterile and valid providers.
Is there, this is going to probably sound stupid, but is there a reticence in the government to pull these companies off the registry? Or is it just paperwork or just, boxes under a table someplace like with the accident up there in Connecticut?
Reticence, I think there is a lot of bureaucracy, right? And there's a lot of wanting to get it right and wanting to adhere to due process. CVTA is on record saying that the level of due process that is being, provided at this point is almost, in our in my opinion, I will say almost venturing into becoming the de facto defense counsel for some of these organizations that are just plainly not adhering to the rules. I mean, how many ways does a state have to tell the federal government that an organization is, they're not licensed, or that the state has taken action against that entity, and then you still see them listed on the training provider registry, right? I mean, the federal government is focused on a lot of different things, and these folks that we partner with at FMCSA are busy people who have a lot going on, but we really want to see, I think what's interesting, and it was just alluded to in an earlier part of the conversation, that, in the same way that the federal government has gotten really animated and active, especially with this new interim final rule that was effective immediately, right? As you see around the non-domiciled activities that are problematic, we would similarly like to see that same urgency and activity on the part of policing up this training provider registry.
Andy, Jeff, we're out of time. Is there any chance of you guys over the next month coming back for a part 2 of this so we can actually get even into more details? I hate to put you on the spot like that. Please tell me you can make some time over the next month. Is it possible?
No, I'm speaking I can speak for Andy because we've already discussed this. Absolutely, we will. There's a lot of connective tissue between our request to have the TPR enforcement. It goes right along with English language proficiency and non-domiciled. There's a lot of different regulatory arms being pulled in this space right now that deserves a lot more attention and conversation.
I'll make a joke for you guys. By the way, I don't know if you ever heard it. Why did baseball players win their strike when football players lost their strike? And the answer is baseball players can read. Somewhere along the line, it turned out that truck drivers and the people who work in the industry can read. We don't need a law. We have a law. We just need some enforcement is what we're kind of talking about here. Thank you both so much. We will get you guys back on in short order. It's a conversation well worth handing. Jeff Burkhardt and Andy Poliakoff, it's so good to have you guys. Good friends of the show. Thank you for making the time.
Gentlemen, thank you.